What happens when a girl begins to change, when her skin shimmers, her eyes glow and the river sings for her alone? The rain came suddenly, hard, heavy, wild. It hammered the zinc roofs of the girls' hostel like drumming hands, echoing through the narrow corridors of St. Catherine's boarding school. Girls screamed and laughed, racing to shut their windows as wind and water burst inside. But Adanna didn't laugh. She froze by her bunk bed, her hands trembling as cold drops rolled down her arms. Something was happening to her skin. She pulled up her sleeve, and there they were again. Scales. Faint. Silvery, glimmering like fish skin under the dim fluorescent light. They shimmered with each flash of lightning, beautiful and terrifying all at once. Her heart thudded. "Not again," she whispered, scrubbing her arm furiously with a towel. But the more she rubbed, the brighter they glowed. "Adanna!" Her roommate Bessie called from the window. "Come see. The football field is flooding." Adanna panicked, yanking her long-sleeved sweater over her arms. "I'm coming," she shouted, forcing her voice steady. But inside, she was shaking. Every time it rained, the scales returned, spreading a little further. She remembered the first time it happened, 2 months ago, after a night shower. She had thought it was an allergic reaction. Her father told her it was nothing. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. At dinner that night, whispers followed her down the dining hall. "Did you see her arms?" "She doesn't bath properly." "No, my cousin said that's a sign of Ogbanje." She slammed her tray down and sat alone, pretending not to hear. Later that night, Bissy cornered her. "Adanna, tell me the truth," she said softly. "Are you doing any spiritual thing? You can talk to me." Adanna stared at her friend, the rain still whispering outside. "No," she said. "I don't even understand it myself." When she fell asleep, she dreamed again. She was underwater. The world was blue and endless. A woman with silver eyes floated before her, hair flowing like dark waves. She reached out her hand. "Come home, Adanna," the woman said, voice echoing like song. "Come home." Adanna jerked awake, gasping. Her nightshirt was soaked, not with sweat, but with water. Her bed was dripping wet. The next morning, the hostel matron scolded her. "Did you pour water here, girl?" "No, Ma," Adanna whispered. But as she bent to pick her towel, she saw something glisten on the floor. A tiny, silver scale still shining. Outside, rain clouds gathered again. And from somewhere deep within the earth, she thought she heard a whisper. The sound of her name in the water. The next week dragged on like a dream she couldn't wake from. Adanna tried to hide her arms under long sleeves, even in the scorching sun. The scales itched when she was nervous, pulsing faintly like they had their own heartbeat. One afternoon during prep, the principal called her to the office. "Your father sent your late mother's belongings," he said. "They've been in storage since her passing. You can take them home this weekend." That night, while everyone else slept, Adanna opened the small wooden box in her dorm locker. Inside was an old photograph, her mother, smiling by a riverbank and at a shell-shaped pendant, pale blue, smooth like glass. When she touched it, the lights flickered. And then she heard it, a faint humming sound, soft, melodic, like a lullaby. It wasn't in the room, it was inside the shell. She lifted it to her ear. The sound grew clearer. "My daughter, listen when the water calls you." Her breath caught. She dropped the pendant, heart racing. The next day, unable to focus on class, she sneaked out after lights out, carrying the pendant. The moon was full, painting the school field silver. She walked to the edge of the compound, where an old stream trickled behind the fence. The air grew colder as she approached. She could smell damp earth, hear frogs croaking in the dark. She crouched and dipped the shell into the water. The stream lit up, faintly at first, then with a strange, pulsing glow. The reflection in the water changed. It wasn't her face anymore. It was the woman from her dreams. The woman smiled. "You found me, Adanna. Adanna stumbled backward, slipping on the wet grass. "Who are you?" she whispered. "I am your mother," the woman said gently. "And I am not gone. I live where the rivers end and the sea begins." Tears filled Adanna's eyes. "My mother was human. She died when I was a baby." The woman's expression turned sad. "She was human, yes, for a time, but before that, she was a daughter of the river. And now the water calls for you, as it once called for me." Adanna shook her head. "No, I can't." "Listen to me." The woman's voice softened, echoing with waves. "In 12 full moons, the change will be complete. The river does not forget its own. If you don't return, it will come for you." Lightning flashed. The glow vanished. The water turned black again. Adanna staggered backward, gasping, clutching the pendant. Then she heard footsteps. "Adanna?" Bisi's voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" Adanna turned. Her arms were wet, and as moonlight hit them, the scales were shining again, brighter than ever. Bisi screamed. The news of what happened that night spread like wildfire through the school. By morning, Adanna's name was everywhere, whispered in hallways, scribbled on hostel walls, spat like a curse. She glows in the rain. She speaks to water. She's possessed. The principal, weary and fearful, called her father. Within 2 days, Adanna was sent home. The journey back felt endless. She watched the world blur past the bus window, trees, red earth, storm clouds gathering in the distance. Her hands shook as she traced the faint scales hiding beneath her sleeves. She thought of the woman in the river, the voice that called her daughter. Her father was waiting outside their house when she arrived. Older, sadder, eyes heavy with things unsaid. Inside, the silence between them was thick. "Daddy," she began softly. "Who was Mama and really?" He looked away. "Your mother was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. She came from the river one evening, out of nowhere. I was a fisherman then, by the banks of Oguta. She said she wanted to live among humans. I didn't ask questions." His voice cracked. "She warned me the river would one day come for her. When she got pregnant with you, she stopped going near the water. Then, she fell sick after your birth. I tried to save her, Adanna, I did. But when she died, the river rose that night, like it was mourning her." Adanna felt cold all over. "So it's true," she whispered. "She was one of them." He nodded, eyes glistening. "And now it wants you." That evening, a storm rolled in from the west. The lights flickered as rain beat against the roof. Adanna sat by the window holding her mother's pendant. She could hear the river again, faint, distant, humming her name. Suddenly, the door creaked open. A shadow stood there. A bent old woman wrapped in soaked fabric, her eyes glowing faintly blue. "Adanna Nwosu," the woman rasped. "You cannot hide from the water." Her father gasped. "Who are you?" "I am Onyemiri Nama," the woman said, "the one who speaks for the river." "The debt must be paid." Adanna stood, trembling. "Please, I don't want this. I'm not like her." The woman's smile was sad. "You have her gift, and her burden. The river waits, child. When the 12th full moon comes, you will either return willingly, or the water will take you." She turned and walked into the storm. Adanna ran to the doorway, but the woman was gone. Only wet footprints shimmered on the red earth, leading toward the riverbank. That night, Adanna dreamed again. She stood on a vast shoreline, the waves glowing like liquid silver. Her mother was there, singing softly. "Come home before the 13th tide," she said, "or you will drown between worlds." Adanna woke crying, and the sound of the rain outside felt like the heartbeat of something ancient, waiting. The night of the 12th full moon arrived with no mercy. Thunder rolled across the sky like drums of war. The river behind the house swelled, restless, glowing faintly blue under the moonlight. Wind tore through the trees, bending them like they were bowing to something unseen. Adanna stood by her window, heart racing. Her reflection in the glass shimmered, half girl, half something else. Scales traced her arms and neck like living jewelry. Her eyes glowed faintly, silver and sorrowful. She turned to her father, who sat trembling beside the doorway. "I have to go," she said quietly. "No," he begged. "We can hide. We'll leave this place. The river can't—" "Daddy," she smiled sadly. "It's not a curse. It's a calling." He broke down, covering his face. "I lost your mother to that water. I can't lose you too." Adanna knelt beside him, touching his hands. "You won't. You'll still hear me. The water never truly takes. It remembers." Outside, lightning split the sky. The river roared louder as if answering her. Then came a knock, quick, urgent. It was Cheek, drenched to the bone, clutching a lantern. "The water's rising," he said breathlessly. "People are saying it's heading straight for your house." Adanna grabbed the seashell pendant and stepped into the storm. "Then it's time," she whispered. They ran together, feet splashing through flooded paths, rain lashing their faces. The wind carried a faint melody, a woman's voice, haunting and beautiful. At the riverbank, the world seemed to shimmer. The water glowed in swirling hues of blue and green. Mist rose like smoke, and there she was, the woman from her dreams, standing tall on the surface, her long hair flowing like black waves. "Mother," Adanna breathed. "My daughter," the figure said, voice echoing like distant thunder. "The river has waited. It is time to choose." Chike held her hand tightly. "You don't have to go," he said. "You can fight it." Adanna looked at him, rain streaming down her face. "If I fight it, I'll destroy both worlds. The river will take everything. This is the only way to make peace." The water surged, curling around her feet like hands. Her scales shimmered brighter, spreading to her shoulders, her neck, her face. She smiled through tears. "Tell Daddy I love him," she said softly. "Tell him I'm not lost." "No, Adanna," Cheeky shouted, gripping her hand, but she gently pulled away. The river roared, the sound rising into a song. Adanna stepped forward, barefoot, her pendant glowing like a second moon. With every step, the storm quieted. The thunder faded. The rain softened into mist. When she reached the water's edge, her mother reached out her hand. "Come home, my child." Adanna took it. Light burst from the river, blinding, pure, alive. For a moment, Cheeky saw her silhouette, hair flowing, scales glimmering, and then she was gone, melting into the water. The storm stopped. The river fell silent. Morning came with golden sunlight breaking through the clouds. The land was dry again. Cheeky stood by the river, eyes red from crying. He threw the lantern into the water and whispered, "Goodbye." But just then the surface rippled. A voice, soft as a sigh, rose from the depths, familiar and gentle. "Don't say goodbye, Cheik. Say home." The water sparkled briefly and then calmed. Days later, villagers said the floods never came again. The river stayed full, peaceful, almost watchful. Fishermen swore they sometimes saw a silver shape swimming deep below, half girl, half light. And every full moon, when the wind passed over the water, it carried a faint melody, a song of a girl who finally found where she belonged. The water called her name, and this time, she answered,